welcome to the newest episode of Show Me Your Diamond podcast and YouTube channel. I am Giulia Castelli, your host. I am also a diamond huntress and a hypnotherapist. I hunt for diamonds, but I also help women and humans in general uncover their inner diamond through coaching, therapy, and I'm writing a book on that topic, linking the outer diamond to the inner diamond in all of us. And the diamond on this episode, the newest diamond, is Mary Ann Thompson-Frenk, an international humanitarian, and I'm very privileged to have you here with us today, Mary Ann.
Thank you. It's an honor to get to be with you.
Would you like to add something about yourself? I know you have many titles, awards, you have achieved so much, although you're so young.
Thank you. For me, I feel like every time you achieve something, you're aware of that much more that needs to be done. And the amazing thing in this world right now, which is increasing in terms of globalization and the way we're more interdependently interconnected with each other, environmentally, financially, sociologically, the part that is often overlooked is the sociological. And so whether I'm doing activism, whether I'm doing conscious capitalism, whether I'm doing philanthropy or social responsible investing, which I see as all pieces like the cogs in a clock. So I strategize to make sure how they can work together to end up with a desired result. But when doing all that work, at the end of the day, it comes down to our willingness to work with each other, people that are vastly different from us, vastly different values. And so I find that a large part of what I'm doing is like being a quilt maker. And that takes the humility to recognize that somebody else has value and that I can learn from any given person. So that's what I would emphasize. Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to put it so simply, all those amazing things that you are doing. And you're so eloquent. I love listening to you, and I have heard you speak at a global conference, and then I heard you speak at a very special private mastermind. And today I'm so pleased to have you just for me and for my tribe, my followers, my viewers, sharing your wisdom, sharing your beauty.
If they're your followers, I know they're pretty amazing people. So.
Thank you. They know.
Because that's what we're all looking for. We're looking for the diamond in each other. And when you don't have the humility to think there is one in somebody else, you're missing out. You're missing out. So, I always tell people one of the most important things that we can use for success in our lives is empathy. Because people go, well, isn't that like making me wish? No. Empathy is being able to understand where the other person is coming from. And I tell people, even if you're a sociopath, it's reconnaissance. Because wouldn't you want to have that much more information to strategize whether I've negotiated the first treaty in 300 years between Hopi and Navajo nations. We just celebrated recently in Mexico 500 years between the Tolteca and the Maya coming together. And anytime you forge these things, the first thing you have to do is say, how is the other side feeling? And I know in my country right now, Republican, Democrat, those for Harris, those for, it's really... But when people are going, what are we going to do? And the number one step is the thing that often is the last thing you want to do. Is go, how is someone that I think is my enemy, my opposer, how are they thinking and why are they thinking? And one of the steps back is to say, they're as passionate about what they're doing because they care equally to me about the well-being of this country or the well-being of a company or the well-being of your tribe or wherever you're at. So we can agree that we want the best for that. So let me start there and then we can grow and negotiate something. So I think, when you talk about finding a hidden diamond in someone, that is something that too often people just assume, oh, there's nothing there because you're not like me.
And you're not looking deep enough, right? You're not taking the time. A lot of the times, I find, and maybe in my earlier years of my career as well, I guess, we just forget to listen. Or maybe we listen, but while listening, we are already deciding how we're going to answer, which means we're not hearing the other side. So one of my tips to people will be hear, listen, see, and hear the other person. And maybe, as you said, you live in the States, and obviously this week, a few days ago, there were the elections, so a lot is going on in your country. So how are you taking it? Is it with empathy? I mean, and I'm not. We're not getting.
I'm open. Yeah. I'm an open book on this.
Good.
In my country, things are a little scary if you're brown like me. I mean, there's no way to make things prettier. He said that people, my skin color, are dirtying the blood of America, and we're an infestation. And that talk is scary because in my humanitarian work, I've done work in Rwanda, and I remember going to the Kilgari Museum, and I was walking on bones. And suddenly the people were like, "Hurry, we gotta go under the table." And next thing I know, I'm being shoved under the table. And my husband was somewhere else, and I'm like, I don't know where he is. I'm scared because I'm hoping he's okay. And there's a glass window, and there's this guy walking by, and he has a little baby skull on his hat. He's walking with a machete, and one of my degrees in organizational psychology. And when you first go into psychology, you have to learn a little bit of each field. And one of them, of course, was people that were serial killers. And you hear about they go to a site where they've done something, they get high off of it. But it's another thing to take that academic concept and to witness it. Because this guy's just walking by with his machete, and he's like high on what he had done there. And the people I'm with in Rwanda, they're going, he was one of them. And so we're all know what this man is capable of, and we see him walking. And it was the first time I'd seen real evil. And later, after he left, I went into where we were. The museum had been a church, and one of the buildings on there. And in the past, when these genocides had occurred, people felt safe when they would go to the church. It was left alone. But this particular one, the one that's famous, people didn't respect that. So all the people that had gone to church had been killed. And when you see all the skulls, they become like rocks. You don't think about them as being. It's like your brain does it to deal with what you're seeing. But when you went in the room that had the objects, the rosaries, the teddy bears, the things that give you personalities of the people, and they were blood-soaked. And the only way I can describe is the air was thick with spirits. It felt like I was swimming, and then I just stood there, and I went, I will dedicate my life to making sure this does not happen again. And one of the things we learned is the Rwandese, despite having a small budget, they spent a lot of money, and they studied every genocide around the world. And they discovered there were 10 stages that occur. And one of the biggest red flags is when you refer to any group of human beings as less than human. In Rwanda, they said, kill the cockroaches. If you make something less than human, like back in Germany, they talked about Jews as being rats. So it is scary in the United States right now to have someone who's going to be a president that refers to people that look like me as an infestation, and as something that is basically less than human. And to hear that they think that people who look like me are dirtying the blood. So we don't know what's going to happen. I know that I have to be smart and intelligent, and then I also know there are very real things that are happening that are going to happen. We have what's called Social Security, and that everybody gets when they get old. But we also have for veterans who have served in Vietnam, World War II. They get special things through the Veteran Association, and many have to rely on both of those. And one of the programs within the Mnemosyne Institute, we have what's called Food Source DFW. We've saved $55 million worth of food from being thrown to landfills. But in the Dallas, and that's all over North America, but in Dallas alone, we feed 5,000 families a day. And I know that for so many people, it's mortgage, rent, food, medicine. And they have to take one off the table to be able to deal with things. And I'm very worried that we're going to have this huge influx of people with veterans when they're told, oh, you can't have Social Security if you are getting help from the Veteran Association. Because the VA doesn't feed you. The VA takes care of your medicine. Social Security gives you the money for food and whatnot. And if you're someone who's 60, 70, 80 years old, and maybe you've lost a leg, you can't do something, you need both. So I'm anticipating there's going to be a lot of realities that we have to contend with. And the challenge for those like myself that were progressive, we have to be the bigger person and not be like, I told you so. Instead, we have to say there's someone who voted in accordance to their conscience, and my conscience dictates I need to help them. And that's being able to do that is going to be what helps heal our nation moving forward. Because I think too many people are tempted to condemn instead of saying, okay, this is now our reality. How can I help my country and my community move forward?
Wow. Thank you for sharing something personal, and I feel how strongly you feel about finding a way and still empathy in those unprecedented times, I think. Absolutely. So it's going to be interesting, and people like you can make the real difference because of how you choose to deal with it.
Well, it's always a choice.
Yes.
And I think that a lot of times those of us who advocate for women's rights, or I advocate a lot for Native American issues, minorities, LGBT, whatever, and when people come from victim mentality, they want to go, you're doing this to me. And they don't realize this energy, appointing, is shoving someone away. And if you want to work with people, whether it's for-profit, non-profit, a social issue, you have to be able to open yourself, be vulnerable, and say, I need to understand how you're feeling, where you're coming from, and where do we share concerns, and how can we work with this? And I've seen a lot of people who are startled that I want to understand where their perspective is. And it doesn't mean I'm going to agree with them, but understanding can help me make as close to a win-win solution as I can, in business or nonprofit.
Mary Ann, you are coming from a very prominent family, but yourself, you have made your own mark on society and in your career and in your business. What values have you taken from your family, and what are you most proud of from your own successes?
Wow.
Okay, and maybe we can.
That's awesome. That's an awesome question. For me, I was brought into the family I was through no particular hard work or earning it for myself. And I always tell people I have two selves. There's the self that has had the privilege, the education, access to the money that's literally saved my life many times, seizures, migraines, asthma. I was a kid that could spend a month at a time in the hospital struggling to breathe, or with all my other medical issues. I was born with a hearing loss, so to say crown and crayon, it took me a long time because I couldn't hear the difference. People rub burr gloves on their hands and shake my tongue like choreography, so I can speak. I've now spoken at the House of Lords, at the United Nations, at the White House, and that was because my family was able to train me to speak even if I couldn't quite hear it. If you said, have a nice day, we were in a crowd room, I might hear a. And if I had, we learn to speak by emulating what we hear. So if I had not had the training, people wouldn't know I had a brain. And so that's the privilege life gave that aspect to me. If I had not been selected, and I was selected mainly because I was in an orphanage. Father William Watson had our little children orphanages of the world, and he would take kids in, and they would give up to 12th grade, and they'd give them 2 to 3 years of helping to raise the other kids. And he wouldn't do adoption at all because he thought it would make the other kids feel bad who weren't selected. But I was born on Mother's Day in 1977 at 7:11 a.m. And he said, God has other plans. And of course, I had no control over being born at 7:11 a.m. on Mother's Day or in 1977. And because of that one moment, perfect moment in time, he called my parents up and said, kid's yours. And so when you have that understanding, I always look at life from two different perspectives. If I was a kid that, because I was considered a child prodigy with art. I make 7-foot sculptures and all sorts of stuff. But when I was a kid, I would go down to Mexico. My parents did a beautiful thing, and I encourage everyone out there to do this. Do not hide poverty from your children, because that was one of the best things that my family did. They did not hide poverty from me. And so when we would go there, I'd see kids, trying to sell pieces of pottery, and it was 10 times better than what I was making. Here I was thought of as a child protege, but they're going, someone buy this so I can eat this week. And that put it in perspective, because I thought as I grew older, if I saw this snooty tourist walking by with her attitude and her heels and all that, I would say, if I were her, I would do this with my life. So whatever the me is, that would have been, is what I need to be doing right now. And so I hold myself accountable for that. So that's why I say I feel like I have two selves, who I could have been and what that person would be saying, God, I would do this. And then who I am, and this who I am needs to be accountable to what that is, because not everybody gets this opportunity.
Wow, that's deep and that's very, very admirable. Mary Ann, I'm speechless. Have you written a book or books? Because your story is like a story from a book, a story for a movie. And your life hasn't even started. You're so young and there's so much. What's next for you? What are the big dreams?
Well,
saving the world, I'm sure.
Well, we have the Mnemosyne Institute, which we've created, and we've spent the last number of years, decades, building it, and its focus is on helping the world deal with the challenges of globalization in a responsible way. And that's a real boring way to say that right now, as the world is more and more interconnected, we have to do our part to try and help people navigate that. People like to talk about the rate at which technology is increasing, and so I tell people there's the technological hardware. The technology is the hardware. The software is our sociological processes. And so that's what's led us to do, as I said, the first treaty in 50 years between Hopi and Navajo tribes. We got the most people ever to come forward for the reconciliation with the Liberian Truth Reconciliation Commission. That's led us to do the Redstone Statement, which had about 50 indigenous leaders from around the world define what indigenous environmental philosophy is, which comes down to the difference between academia, environmental philosophy. I'm human, I care about the world over there, whereas indigenous is I am human, I care about the earth, which is part of me. I am here, I care about myself. And that tiny difference makes a huge difference. That's now going to be used by the International Environmental Law, that's cited. But our international chapters, we have one that serves Asia, that's led by Reverend Hiromi Yano. He's an Omoto Shinto priest, and he is working on reconciliation between South Korea and Japan, the indigenous Ainu of Japan with the Japanese, as well as the Japanese with Southeastern Asia. Those who don't know Asia history, the Japanese were very similar to the British and how they attempt to colonialize. So there's a lot of reconciliation that needs to occur in those areas. And then here in the UK, we have an international chapter that we're starting that is led by David Solomons, and our board members are Baroness Sandeep Verma, who's a Tory, and Lord Andrew Stone, who has always been on the progressive side of things. And people were very surprised, since he was historically Labour and she's historically a Tory. But what I tell them is they both care. And that's what we have to see moving forward. So I feel really blessed that our chapter here in the UK will have them. And we're going to be bringing the food source program that saved $55 million worth of food as of last November. It's saved more this time. But because our work worked with Red Cross and other international groups, and we work with corporations that call us and say, help, we have 3 truckloads of bananas, and if they're not curved enough, grocery stores won't sell them, so all of our bananas are straight. What do we do? And so from Dallas to Miami, that's like $3,000. And if you're a nonprofit, they were like, oh, I can't take all that. Can you make 3 stops? Well, no. The for-profit company's like, well, that's a $9,000 loss. So we go in and we say, we'll do 1 stop. They take the $3,000 as a donation, and then we divide it up. And so we've been able to significantly increase homeless shelters and food pantries. And last year, we got a phone call from one of the major donors who said, we have 3 truckloads here in Europe. I know you only serve over in the US, but can you help us? But because we've been working with groups like the Red Cross and others who are international, they said, can you help us? And we got 3 huge truckloads into the Ukraine. And then we realized we need to bring the program here to serve Europe. So that's one of our big ones that we're going to be working on.
Yeah. Wow, that's huge. Yeah. Amazing. Well, if I can help with anything here in the UK, I volunteer. Mary Ann, I always ask this question, and it's the name of my podcast. Show me your diamond. And you choose. What's your diamond?
For me, my diamond is what I would call the heart. You know, the heart is what connects you with the world. The heart is that which is greater than you. The heart is which, you know, you are responsible for. And people hate the term responsibility, but when you open yourself up to feeling responsibility for the world, there's something magical that happens. The world ends up activating through you, and you're not as intimidated because you're part of the whole. How can you be intimidated when you're part of the whole? So to me, the diamond is that which is shared by the world. And when you can feel yourself being part of the world, you are one of the most empowered people, and your voice is that much stronger.
Wow. That is one of my favorite diamonds so far, and the way you describe it, you're really amazing, because you speak through your heart, and I could tell that.
Thank you.
And but still, we're girls, and I'm in jewelry, and I would love you to tell me what you're wearing. Like, you know, those days I noticed you had beautiful sparkles on your fingers when you spoke, and of course I noticed that how beautiful you speak, how much meaning there is in what you speak. But it's beautiful also to enhance ourselves with meaningful pieces. And you're in England, and I see some tea.
I love tea. Tea is my favorite thing. You know, so I'll go. So this is just like little teacups. Yeah, I love tea. You know, one of the things I learned is that black tea prevents migraines because it dilates the blood vessels. Coffee constricts them, so coffee will give me a migraine. So I've grown to have this absolute adoration and appreciation of black tea for preventing migraines. And I just love the flavor, so it's become something I've grown to have a piece. The other piece, this is something that was my grandmother's, so it's from the 1920s. You guys can see it, so it's got all that filigree that they had back then.
So beautiful. It's a Marquise diamond.
Yeah.
I love
And it was called a viscous piscus, so like when you have two circles together, you know, and that actually significantly, theologically, it means the word. So when God spoke the word, the world into being. And I also work with the Toltec Teotihuacan, and the same symbol also means the word, and they call it Tepactol. So I find that fascinating that the sacred geometry is the same across cultures. And then the other one, this was given to me by my father for my sweet 16. Because I'm a Taurus, so emerald.
Emerald. I love the power of emerald. Yes, resilience and so much more in nature and anything you choose to be. But it's also, so it's a very meaningful, both pieces of jewelry plus the fun necklace.
Yeah, I really don't wear anything that doesn't have meaning for me. Yeah, that's a majority of stuff that I have has been given to me, but I did buy this myself just because I love tea.
Oh, this is beautiful. And today I am wearing this beautiful amethyst piece that was just given to me by fabulous Ricardo, the medicine man and professor. And of course it's very meaningful. And I wear this piece of jewelry, this ring from a client of mine that I promote and sell her jewelry. It's rose quartz, and it's made specifically for me. She produces jewelry with the meaning because she meditates, and she could sense what kind of gem you need to enhance what you have or what you need. And then together you create that piece, and I chose those pink sapphires around, rose gold, and there's some stars. For me, the star is a very meaningful symbol, because what my mother did, the best thing my mother did, she told me that I was born under a lucky star. And no matter what, I believe that, and I believe this is what carried me feeling that I am a star.
That is so important, because if someone tells you, to perceive your value, you can walk into any place in any room. And I hear a lot of people say, oh, that's easy for you to say. No, it's not. A lot of times I'm intimidated, but if you hold yourself knowing your value, any room is your stage, any situation is your opportunity. So I think a lot of people think, well, I'm not beginning with anything, but you can create your diamond, because diamonds come under pressure. It's carbon being pushed, and most of us start off as a lump of coal.
Yeah.
But you choose how you're going to be becoming that diamond. Right now, one of the things that, we're dealing with, I have a company called Eco. We're doing a line of solar farms across the state of Texas. And, one of the first things we were told, my partner who's female and I, was, oh, well, people are like, you can't do this. You don't do this. Women don't do this. And we found we're the only women going into energy as the owner, CEO, and president in the country. And when you're under that kind of pressure, it's very easy to cave. Mm-hmm. And you have a choice. You can crumble up and be like your charcoal dust, or you can say, I'm going to make my diamond. Mm-hmm. So it's a choice. It's a choice to make your diamond.
And you chose to be a diamond.
Yes.
And I could see so many polished facets, and I'm sure that you sparkle so brightly from big
so
stage.
Do you. We both sparkle.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for your beautiful diamonds of wisdom. Because why call them pearls of wisdom if we could call them diamonds of wisdom? Thank you for sharing this beautiful energy. I really honor your presence on my podcast. I'm grateful and I'm happy to shine together brighter. Is there anything you want to wish to readers, listeners, or leave them with any last diamond of wisdom?
The three things I'll mention. One, my nonprofit that I mentioned earlier is called the Mnemosyne Institute. We have chapters for Asia, the UK, which is serving places not just here in the UK, but anywhere the UK once had as part of its Commonwealth. So that takes us into Africa, New Zealand, Malaysia, other places. I also have UTF Holdings, which is doing social responsible investing in accordance with the Sustainable Development Goals. But most of all, what I want to leave all of you in terms of, finding your diamond is, first of all, thank an incredible diamond, Morella Sula, who is why the two of us connected. So yes. Look up Global Woman, because she's amazing and she connects you with diamonds like this wonderful lady here. And then I also want to leave you all with a reminder that you choose how you make your own diamond in this world. And a lot of us start from very different places, but how you respond to the world around you is what's going to give you your shine. So wishing everybody the best, and thank you for spending this time with me.
Thank you for spending this time with us. Thank you for this gift. Thank you, Mary Ann. Heart to heart. Bye.